What's up, tubers? Q here. This is Derail Valley, a virtual reality train simulator. And I am making this video because I went on YouTube and I wanted to find people who had played this, who had insights about it and thought it was cool and could talk about interesting things, maybe talk a little bit about trains. And I couldn't find anything. All I could find was sort of Mountain Dew fueled ADD nonsense. So I thought I'd make a video, the kind of video that I would want to watch myself. Right, so yeah, this is Derail Valley. It's a bona fide virtual reality train simulator, first person obviously. And it's just a little demo where you can go around kind of in a loop. But you can couple with cars, and the main thing seems to be to not derail your train, which is extraordinarily easy. Okay, so I just coupled those cars there, and it makes me kind of wonder, like, it's so easy to derail your car in this game. I'm already wound up in my virtual reality wire here. Damn it. It's so easy to derail yourself in this game. I think maybe they started out making a train simulator and it derailed so much that they just decided to call it Derail Valley. There are a couple interesting things about train derailments that this demo is sort of approaching. But I think maybe it's only on accident. And the main one being, in a real train, you have to manage slack. And the slack is the sort of slack in between the cars. Because there are certain conditions that you can get into where the slack will build up in certain ways. Where when that slack is either released, or the opposite, if it comes into a crunch, a bunch of energy can be concentrated in one spot, and that can do things like break the couplings between cars. And this is the only train sim that I've played with. I haven't played with a whole lot, but this is the only one I've played with where it appears as if each car is modeled as a independent physical object, and so you can sort of sense the slack effects, the effects that the slack has on this front car here when you're in the engine here. And like I said, again, I think it's sort of by accident because they made the cars sort of independent, and so you get some of these effects from the slack. Going a little too fast here. But all the times that I've derailed, I'm mostly convinced that they are caused by imperfections in the geometry of the rail. And I'll show you a couple spots where that's most decidedly true. There's a spot on the track where if you try to reverse over it, you can't even get past it. It's like a wall. Okay, so I touched the back there. And I think I'll go pick up those last cars over there. Where's my controller? Over there. This way, break off. So managing the slack is actually a big part of what train conductors do. Conductors or engineers? Conductors. And if they don't carefully manage the slack, they can get into situations where they break couplings. And they can also use the slack to their advantage. And that would be a great thing for this game to do, because you really get a strong sense of how the slack is interacting in the train. Because of the way the cab shakes and everything in virtual reality, it's just kind of a unique thing. And in a way, it's kind of in a class of its own in terms of train simulation because of that. And of course, it just feels really awesome, being I feel like I'm actually in the cab of a train. It's a very realistic feeling. You know, I can come over here to the other side of the cab and watch the back of the train, make sure it gets past this last signpost. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool, and this has a lot of potential. I'm just not so sure that they were intentionally going for this effect with the slack, and I'm not so sure if the game itself is gonna, you know, that's gonna be one of the game mechanics. It'd be great if it was. You can see the slack, yeah, that, and the whole cab kind of shakes. Oh, that reminds me, I meant to turn back on the, yeah, this stabilized train thing. I want to turn that off, so that I get all the full effects of this sort of cab shaking. And another kind of miss here is, as the slack is being taken up, you know, as you accelerate from a stop, the slack will be taken up by the acceleration of the train. And so what you should hear is, you know, a clang, 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 clang as each car sort of starts catching up. And I don't hear that sound, and it makes me very disappointed. There, I feel like I'm going too fast there. Okay, and you can see there's like sort of a lot of like bounciness and vibration and stuff in here between these two cars. Too fast, too fast. Couple. Okay, that was a pretty high speed coupling. Works. So let's go. And so just sort of generally speaking, I think the way that you would manage slack, I'm not a conductor, and there's chapters and books written about the theory of how this works, but generally speaking, if you make small changes to your acceleration, you will prevent that sort of slack energy from building up. Cool, we got the whole train. Yeah, so this little, I want to go too fast. This little box right here is the, you know, I don't know, this is not a realistic thing, but when you get close, you click couple, and then you can uncouple and see those little marker there. There's this kind of cool interface where you can twist this thing. But you can choose a spot and you can uncouple if you want. I'm not going to do that though. One thing about this throttle is that it's continuously variable. You can just smoothly move it up and down. And this is not what you normally see on a train. I'm going a little fast. Trains generally have notches in this throttle. And I went and looked, and I was trying to figure out, you know, why that is, why they have those notches. And it seems like the historical reason is that the early electromechanical components used in diesel electrics just needed to have notches because of the way they worked. And I can kind of imagine why that would be. You know, if they had different coil windings or something like that, then you would switch between the different coil windings in the motor. Or, you know, it could be any number of things like that. But you start down here at Y, that's where the train yard is with all those tracks. And then you just go in a loop, kind of come around here. And then we are right in here, and we'll be crossing over. That's not enough light here. Not enough light in this actual cabin. Whoa. The VR headset went out of range there. Yeah, so we'll be crossing this bridge and just kind of come around to the left. And there's a few dangerous spots. One of them is this curve right here, and then there's also another bridge that you cross here. Still can't see it. That bridge right there, that's the bridge that has that bad geometry on it. So I'm just going to try to go super slow. And so far I have not been able to go through this loop with this full train and not derail. So the game is aptly named. It's just finding different ways to derail. But it has a lot of potential. I really like it. It's one of my favorite kind of VR experiences that I've found so far. Probably also because I really like trains. Thirsty. I'm thirsty. Thanks. Thirsty. Thanks. Yeah, so this water bottle just keeps respawning here, and it like gets in the way. Like it'll come down here and screw with the things. But like if you try to get rid of it, it just respawns. Okay, and then so you can go into settings, and you can turn off respawning. But the problem is, then you lose this thing because this thing drops somewhere. I don't know. You probably get out of the train even somehow. And then you lose this thing, so it's gone. I'll leave that there for now. Anyway, great visuals, great sound. The environments are really nice for a demo, especially. Got that little sound effect as it's going over the bridge. It's a nice touch. All the detail and everything is really nice. All this rust and this texture mapping and stuff here. I haven't played these switches yet. They're probably important. I don't know if they do. I have no idea what they do. Too fast. Oh, and there's this thing. Turn it. Don't know what that does. This throttle mechanism is I don't want to derail here. So this is one of the spots where the geometry on the train is obviously not very good. And I don't know, maybe this is somewhat realistic. Train tracks are kind of crappy in spots, and they have to be, pretty carefully managed to make sure you don't derail. Ooh. See, I feel like that's way too fast for a train. I'm gonna try slowing down a little bit. Of course, by slowing down, all the slack in the train is probably doing weird things back there. It could be that this train's not quite long enough for those effects to really matter. But it could be a really interesting game mechanic if they did decide to do it that way. Now you can see over there, like, the pretty big hill there, but now the train is over the hill. And slack management comes into play, especially when you have hills and you're going over the crest of a hill, or you're going through a valley. And basically what you're trying to avoid is different parts of the train going different speeds. And what I mean by that is, because they're not perfectly coupled, you can build up differences in speed on different parts of the train. And then if two different parts of the train have different speeds, all that energy can be concentrated in one spot, in one coupling, and that can cause the coupling to break. I'm starting to speed up here. So right up here is where I usually derail. I try to slow way down. This bridge right here has problems. The geometry spot right here. Looks like I'm doing okay. You see that throttle, see that slack that kind of yo-yoed back and forth there, rubber band back and forth. And I'm not sure if the designers of the game kind of had this in mind and this is what they were going for, and that's supposed to be one of the game mechanics. But if it's not, they should definitely consider it and try to figure out how to make that part of the game. Because otherwise, yeah, it's just accelerating, decelerating, and trying to go too fast over certain areas, and that's fun and all. But if you're trying to capture what it's really like to manage a gigantic train, then you would need to think about slack and just make it a lot more fun. And these visuals out here are pretty nice. I could have sworn the water had sort of a better effect before. I played with sampling, oversampling settings, and I'm not sure if it's better. It should be better. Maybe it's just my imagination. So this is a big downhill section, and I've derailed here when trying to brake, and I'm already building up speed even though my brake is almost fully engaged. I'm trying to avoid completely engaging the brake because that's how I derailed before. just going too fast. So I got full brake. Hopefully I don't derail. Whew, going fast. Full brake. Reverse throttle. I don't know if I want to do that or not. Let's see, what is that? 50 kilometers per hour? I don't know, I might make it this time. This is the farthest I've gotten so far. That is a heinous hill. And I wonder if you're supposed to reverse throttle through that thing as well, to add some more sort of engine braking. But the last time I tried that it derailed, so I'm not really sure. Alright, well it looks like I made it back this time. Cool. Good timing. There's a loop here in this section, like you can there's a switch over there, over this direction, and you can use that to actually turn the train around. And so in theory you could go through this track backwards, but like I said, on that bridge back there, the geometry on the left side of the bridge, actually, you can see it right there. If you try to back over that, or at least when I tried to do it, I had 1 or 2 cars at the time, it was like a brick wall. I just couldn't reverse past that point. So I think there's something wrong with geometry. Okay, that's good enough. I just wanted to do my version of this video, and hope you guys enjoyed it. All right, peace out.